How do you help your grandchildren to honor their parents and not just see you as the sweet ones, even though you are, and the parents as the love givers and the hard ones, though they may appear to be?
I think children sort these things out quite early on. They know that you're the grandparents and that you give them chocolate buttons sometimes when mummy wouldn't, you know.
Sometimes. Sometimes.
They know.
They knock at the door now and ask.
They know the rules are a little bit different when they're with grandparents, and you don't deliberately try and undermine your children. And there are some rules that I certainly would want to respect and go along with. But you know, there are some things that it is a bit more flexible, and you are the sweet ones. But I would always, if a grandchild was ever saying, "Oh, my mum's being really hard on me or really unkind," I would try to bring a perspective. Why do you think she's being like that? Or you know, and try to help them to see that mum is loving them and wanting their best good. So I think again, it's these questions, helping them to see a perspective that perhaps they've, you know, that there's a confrontation there and that they're just not seeing their parents' perspective and the heart that it's perhaps coming from. And you can play that sort of referee almost a little bit and push them back into trying to have an understanding of what it's like for their parents and what their parents are really wanting for them.
When parents are bringing up children, they're probably at the most pressurizing time in their life. In your 20s, you're basically learning your job. You do your education and you may be getting a degree or something like that. And at work in your 20s, you're really feeling your way in your job. In your 30s and 40s, you're buying a house, you're having children, and you're making progress in your job. And probably the 30 and 40 decades are when you work the hardest. Once you get beyond that into your 50s, you're starting to get paid for what you know and for your experience. But up till that time, you're gaining experience and you're working crazy in all different directions all at the same time. And life is very pressurizing. And the great challenge of life for a husband, for parents, I put a wife in there for various reasons, but for a husband, for parents, and for leaders in situations is to be able to carry pressure but not pass it on. And what happens when that breaks down, when the parents pass on the pressure to their children, then you can get this feedback through to the grandparents. Daddy's always cross with me, or mummy has no time for me. You can get those kind of negative things as well. They're arguing and shouting at each other in the house and so on. So one of the things that grandparents can help their children with is how to understand this phrase that we call it grace under pressure, which means how to be sweet-natured and good when everything coming against you is not sweet-natured and good. That is so challenging for parents in their 30s and 40s when they're stretched in every way. And then they've got to have a real sweet nature for their children as well. So it's easy then for the children to come looking to the grandparents for that because they're not getting it at home. And what you don't want to do is undermine that, but you want to bring understanding. Hey, life is hard work. You know, mummy and daddy are working very hard on your behalf. So you always speak well of your children to your grandchildren.
Never ever criticise your grandchildren's parents, whether that's your son or daughter-in-law or your actual son or daughter. Never criticise them to your grandchildren. And if the grandchildren are complaining, I try to, I don't think this happens very often, but I would try to bring understanding, empathy and perspective rather than just agree with them. And
then I think if you do pick up on that course, that's time for you to actually say, should we go out and talk to your children and see, is there anything we can do to support you more? You seem like you're under a lot of pressure at the moment. And you may find out there are bills to pay or financial pressures or just tiredness in life. I mean, so when children are very young and they keep you up at night, sometimes a good night's sleep is all the mummy needs just to get back on top. And sometimes we've offered to go, we will have the child with us, bring them here. They can sleep with us for that, or they can kick us all night long, or we'll get up to them just so you can get a night's sleep. We often find with our children a good night's sleep changes the way the world looks for them. And you can give that to your children and you can absorb that particular inconvenience over a short period of time at least as a grandparent. So there's lots you can do as a grandparent in that way. But you never undermine, you never speak badly of, you always speak well of, and you always speak with understanding. Something
to consider as grandparents, we've just been talking about what do you do if your grandchildren come and say, oh, you know, mummy's not being fair with me or daddy's shouted at me. And we've talked about perhaps how we would handle that. The slightly trickier one is if you actually think that the parents are being unreasonable with the children, or the parents are being too hard with the children, or they are being unfair. And it probably depends a little bit on your relationship, but my experience has been, and my thought on the matter is, that the more you can champion your adult child, son, daughter, in-law in day-to-day life, the more you can say, listen, you're doing a great job. I know you're tired, but I can see you're really putting yourself out to make life fun for your children, or I can see you stayed up late to do this. The more praise you can give them, and empathy, gosh, well, I'll give you an example. My youngest daughter and her husband at the moment are studying, and they've got young children, and they're working and studying, and it's hard to find time for this. And so my daughter said to me, but you managed because you were studying. And I said, yeah, but you were a little bit older. You're doing it with really young children. You really are doing a tremendous job here, and I just feel that is more validating than saying, well, I did it better than you, or I was coping better than you, or whatever it might be, or that's not how I would do it. You can say, have you thought about this, or do you think this would help, or what can I do to help? But you're all the time, I think, that posture of being supportive and helpful and encouraging, and we're here to strengthen their arms and hold up their legs in difficult seasons of their life. We're not there to be the ones that are critical or correcting or making. They're probably already feeling bad about things, and so it doesn't help if you just pile on the agony. You're there to tell them, actually, you know what, all things considered, you're doing a great job. I think that's what we're there for.
What you encourage, you get more of. It's that I see in you, and you call that thing into being. You call it up higher. I think you can ask a question at some point and say, are you all right? You seem to have a lot on at the moment. Is there anything I can do to help you with that? Is there anything extra that would really help you this week?